Welcome to What Do You Say, the podcast that peels back the layers of remarkable individuals to reveal their extraordinary sides and their incredible lives. I'm your host, Frank Termini, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this journey with you. The podcast name's What Do You Say, but that's not how it's said.
How do you say it?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
You got it. We say.
Hey.
Welcome back to What Do You Say? I got Dr. Steve Cicero here today. This is one of my mentors, and I'm really excited to hear the story. I'm really excited. You know, everyone that's watched this podcast knows anytime I got an opportunity to put a redemption story on here, I'm going to do it. And this is, you know, you guys will find out is clearly a redemption story. If you like what I'm doing, like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you can be updated on any new material that we put out there. Doc.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Thanks for doing this.
I appreciate it.
You know, I called you because I'm trying to get Jimmy Cascone on. I got the number from you. And then as I'm calling Jimmy, right after I got the phone with him, I'm like, why the hell am I not putting Steve on this damn thing? You know? And so I immediately called you back, and, you know, I wanted to know your comfort level with sharing the story, you know?
I'm a wide open book.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes to
your fault.
To the fault of being too honest.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know.
So what made you get into medicine?
My dad had a place of business on Independence Avenue in Brooklyn back in the day, and osteopathic school was right next door, and my cousins and my brother-in-law, they all were in
Dr.
medicine.
John Campobasso and Dr. Steve Gialdi.
Steve Gialdi, Dr. Joe Gialdi, and
Joe, I didn't know Dr. Steve had a brother who's a physician as well. Okay.
Yeah, he graduated in 73. Steve graduated in 72, and I went to.
You had to be in the 80s, graduate, because you were a resident when my grandfather died.
I was 1983. I graduated from. It was then called UHS, COM, whatever. Now it's
University of Health Sciences.
Yeah, now it's called KCU. So
the campus is beautiful down there now. They've really changed it up a lot.
Campus is gorgeous. Wasn't like that
No.
when I was going, but yeah, it's very pretty.
So, and I think my grandfather died in 83.
February 17th, if I'm correct. I was working emergency room.
You're pretty good with this stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to.
I know I'm close.
I know it was okay. Pastor, this is George. That's my dad's obituary. Hold on.
I know it was in February. I may be.
Frank Termini, he was only in his 60s when he died. That had to be another Frank Termini. But I think you very well could be right. They usually have the obituaries. But I know it was in February.
I thought it was.
I know it was in February. I remember my dad telling me the stories, and I think he just had an aortic aneurysm. Is that what it was?
I thought it was a MI.
Was it an MI? Was
I
it
thought
a myocardial
so.
infarction?
I thought so.
February 17th.
I'm close.
I guarantee you. I bet you you're probably dead on. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to text someone who will know.
Your mom?
Yeah, she'll know. My mom will know. So, I'm texting her, she'll tell, but I bet you're pretty close. So, and you probably know my birthday, my kids' birthday. You remember stuff like that.
Your birthday's October 31.
That's right. That's right.
I just memorize.
Yeah. So, but what? So that what triggered you? Was it a certain type of medicine that you initially wanted to get into? I
always liked, family practice. But then I thought of radiology or plastic surgery, but I thought I'm too old to do that, which I wasn't. But I don't know. I'm sure it would have been hard to get into one of those residencies, so I opted for family practice.
But the good thing that was cool about family practice is it's so diverse. You just never know what you're going to walk into.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just, oh, strep here, this. I remember you did all kinds of stuff for us. You know, ingrown toenails, stitches,
Joint injections.
joint injections. Yeah, I remember you did knee injections, shoulder injections.
Manipulation, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You did. I remember you used to do. I remember my mom never could relax either. And you would always say, Marilyn, cross your right foot over your left. And as she did it, you'd go, and I remember that. Oh my gosh, you used to do everything. Of course, DOs were very well versed in joint manipulation, where MDs, I don't believe, were.
No, that's what we were trained to do. I mean, a lot of times when you get out, you don't do as much, but you know, it was a modality that I was taught, so if it helped people, I did it, and I thought it helped people. So, and I learned a lot from my colleagues, my brother-in-law, my cousins.
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, there's research now that, I mean, they do certain manipulations for allergies. They do some for anxiety, depression.
Well, not only that, when you put your hands on a patient, it kind of relaxes them.
Here, my edict when I owned Core Physical Therapy was, and I would pay attention to what charges were being billed, and I wanted a manual therapy built with every single patient. And it's the most skilled thing physical therapists do.
But the least reimbursed.
The least reimbursed. And I said, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I do not care. We have got to put our hands on patients. Anyone can come into your office. Hell, they could do their home exercise program on their own.
Well, and the trouble with physicians now, I mean, physicians, allied healthcare professionals, nurse practitioners, they don't put their hands on patients for the most part. I mean, you go in, you shake their hand, you introduce yourself. You want to get their comfort level. You want to get them basically used to you and basically gain their confidence. And by just staring at the computer and doing all that, it's a different brand of medicine than it was 30, 40 years ago when I got out.
It's way more defensive.
Well, yeah. Well,
and it has to be, unfortunately.
I agree. But you also could take a couple minutes out to get to know the patient and the family.
You remember Dr. Bono, the dentist?
Uh-huh.
So he was my patient when I was at Northland Physical Therapy, and he told me something that I always did, and it worked like a charm. And he said something that he always did when a patient came into his office, he would sit with them for 3 to 5 minutes and talk about anything but the diagnosis. Anything it could be, the weather, it could be the last night's ball game, it could be it didn't matter what it was. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do that. And I'm telling you what, it worked so well.
Well, you get them to relax, you get them to open up.
And here, for someone like me, as a physical therapist, a lot of times they went to their primary care physician. They went and got an x-ray. They went to the orthopedic surgeon. They're in pain. They've been bounced around to 2 doctors and a diagnostic test now, and now they're in your office and they're pissed off. You know what I mean?
Right. They're still feeling...
And they're still hurting.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now they're in your office and they're pissed. And, luckily, the way Rockers taught, it was so holistic that I was very much aware of pain pathways to the brain and how those pathways could intersect with the frontal lobe, which would then ultimately affect their mood. Mm-hmm. Some of them would come in, they're depressed, they're crying. Some of them come in, they're pissed off, they're aggravated, and it's because it affects chronic pain affects that part of the brain center.
Exactly.
So when they came in, I was very much aware of, okay, this patient's been in pain for a while and they're just pissed, which ultimately allows you to not take it so personal.
Right. They just want to get better.
They just want to get better. Yeah, they just want to get better. So you had a big practice in Northtown. How long did you have it for?
From 1986 till 2002.
What'd you do from 83 to 86? Because you graduated in 83, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, so what'd you do for those 3 years?
Well, I went to a small hospital in Indianapolis, and at the time, I did a 12-month rotating internship. Residencies weren't in vogue, so once I got out, I went into practice with the guy in Independence for about 14 months.
What happened?
Well, the money ran out from not him, but I was being subsidized at the time from Park Lane Hospital. That was what they were doing, and he said he didn't need me anymore, so I got in my car and worked at an urgent care and worked at Omni Family Medicine. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Pileggi, who was in Northtown, wanted to hire a primary care. He talked to Leonard Patella, Dr. Patella, and Patella said, why don't you go talk to him? And I did, and practiced from, started with them October 6, 1986, till...
And then at what point did you buy the practice?
I think it was like after about 2 or 3 years.
So about 88?
Mm-hmm. Or
So-
maybe 87, I bought in.
Okay. And then you bought them completely out.
Then I bought them completely out probably about 91, maybe 92 or 93, somewhere around there.
Okay. Okay. Man, I thought it was earlier than that.
It seemed like it was, I thought it was around that date.
And you had a very busy practice.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, and so for at some point it was just you, correct?
Well, it's myself and, at the time, Dr. Mullins Dr. Pileggi retired.
Right.
Dr. Mullins came in part-time, God rest both of their souls, and Dr. Haley, then I bought him out, God rest his soul too. It was just myself and Dr. Haley, and he was getting older and he wanted to slow down, which I understand. That's why I bought him out. And then I hired Anna Wagner.
I remember her.
Very,
Yes.
very smart, pretty lady. All of my friends wanted to go to her instead of me, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, what's the difference? I mean, yeah, you don't care. For
No,
sure.
I didn't, and she was very good.
Yeah, I remember her. And then you hired Blake Donaldson.
Yeah, yes, I did.
And then he owned his own practice for a while.
Then
How many patients did that practice have? I remember you just kicking ass in that practice. I mean,
I want to say several hundred. I mean, I want to say, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000.
That's a lot.
Well, I used to bust my nuts, so to speak. And
Oh, for sure.
had night hours when I first started, 3 nights a week, and did what I had to do. It was, you just keep on going.
I mean, you worked your ass off.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, but you could see that you were kind of living in your gift and you really loved what you were doing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were really, really I shouldn't say were, but are really good at what you do. Now, and so currently you work for Barnes Healthcare,
Uh-huh.
and now you're mostly treating the geriatric patient population, would you say?
Barnes, well, no, Corona, because Corona bought Barnes out as of, I want to say May 1 of 2024, but yeah, geriatrics, and I see a lot of psych patients. Part of the Reliant homes that I see have a lot of psych patients.
Did you have to do a certain internship to be able to treat psych patients?
No, I've learned a lot in the last 6 years. I wish I knew more about psych.
Psych is tricky. I'll tell you something.
It's very tricky, and you feel sorry for these people because if they weren't in, I don't want to call it an institution, but in a skilled nursing facility, I think some of them would either be in prison or homeless.
So I'll tell you something. I used to look at patients' past medical histories, and I would see a psych diagnosis, whether it was bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, and I'd be like, fuck.
Schizophrenia.
Well, I've never had to deal with a schizophrenic patient in that setting, in my
Right,
outpatient
right.
physical therapy setting. But to me, schizophrenia would be a terrifying diagnosis. To have, and I don't know I don't know the whole, I hear the word schizophrenia and I'm thinking auditory visual hallucinations.
I see the patients, but they're also seen by psychiatric nurse practitioners.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Is there other,
they manage the psych portion.
is there other, what's the word I'm looking, symptoms to schizophrenia other than auditory and visual hallucinations? Is there other, or is that just the main thing?
That's the main thing, but they have like major depressive disorder associated with that.
When are most of them diagnosed?
I want to say in their 20s to 40s, I think.
Yeah, it's terrifying. What I mean,
Well, it's very terrifying because they can't help it, and you see more of it now. And I don't know whether the etiology is because you see more of it now because of the fact that are there more drugs related? It's
that's what I was getting ready to ask you. What percentage of schizophrenics have abused drugs? Would you say?
I'm just ballparking it. I want to say 30 to
It's
40%.
not a high percentage. That's 60% have
I'm
an unknown
ballparking
ideology.
it. It may be more than that. Okay, it may be more than that.
So, what part of that diagnosis do you manage? If the nurse practitioner is managing the psych component, you manage.
The whole well, a lot of them have high blood pressure
Okay.
or diabetes.
Okay. So you would deal with what an internal medicine doctor would almost do too, as
Right,
well.
as a primary care, yeah.
Oh.
But the fact is, you have to see these patients so many times a year, So even though they have psych problems, you have to see them. Either myself or the nurse practitioners has to see them on every month.
So back to what I was saying, but I would look at these past medical history and I'd be like, God damn, because I had no empathy, and they always had such poor outcomes. You know what I'm saying? And I would get so frustrated, but then I had a bout with anxiety. And after that, when I would get these patients with those type of diagnoses, I would sit with them for a little bit and say, let's talk about this for a second. Tell me what's going on. How long have you struggled with it? What are you doing to manage it? How well is it working? Before I ever talked about the orthopedic problem, because I now know if you can't, it's one here.
It's interrelated.
If you can't fix the head, they may not have anything orthopedically wrong with them at all. That doesn't mean they're not hurting.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't mean they're not hurting, because I'll tell you right now, I start getting anxious, my body starts to hurt, and all headache, neck ache, back, it could really start to hurt, and there's not necessarily anything physically wrong with it. It doesn't mean the shit doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So you have to sit down and address that stuff with them.
And I also think that mental health has been ignored, or the dollars spent on mental health should be more.
Oh, for sure.
But I think
the dollar spent on educating people on what they put in their fucking mouth.
Oh yeah, we got very little on nutrition. And
you need to listen to my podcast with Mitch Thompson, who was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to put him on Remicade. And he was like, I'm not getting on Remicade. I refuse to get on Remicade. And he said, I'm going to change my diet. And he videoed, not video, his audio recording of him interacting with the physician. And they do it's called a fecal cal, come on, you might know, fecal cal protectin. It's something that measures an inflammatory marker in your body. And and basically what he was saying was, hey, if this number drops with me changing my diet.
Is it fecal cal with fat or no? I
you know what? It's going to bother me. But I can, let me see something. Give me 1 second.
No problem.
Because it's going to bother me. I may be able to catch him. He's already been on once. He won't care. But you should listen to it.
Okay.
Anyway, he was in terrible stomach pain. And he decided to take all the sugar out of his diet. And he'll get up in the morning, he'll eat steak, He can't eat eggs.
More protein.
More protein and tons of fat. In his opinion. Now he's not a physician, but he
has the disease.
But he's self-educated and he's incredibly intelligent. Hold on, I'm texting him. And so he played with his food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he lost 25 pounds. Now, this is a 200-pound kid. Okay. Now, not a fat 200-pound kid. It's a put together 200-pound kid. 195, 200-pound kid. Loses 25 pounds because he can't eat anything because everything he's eating, it's killing his stomach. So he started eating high fat, low carb, zero sugar. And
sugar's not good.
And he fixes he fixes himself. He gained all his weight back, doesn't have any stomach problems. He wasn't able to do anything. It debilitated him.
Wow.
But one thing that he was saying is like these physicians have no clue about nutrition. None.
We don't.
I mean, did they even touch on it in med school?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And nutrition is so important because what you put in your body is.
But here now we know sugar is a carcinogenic. I mean, cancer cells feed off of it.
Yeah.
We know it causes inflammation throughout the entire body. So now you have your orthopedic pain. We know it's linked to dementia and Alzheimer's, right? Yes. What other diagnoses is it related to?
Well, you get your diabetes. You got your
diabetes, of course.
Hyperlipidemia.
Right. Here, and you know what's funny? Here, so I started doing this, okay? And I didn't lose any weight, but my body fat went down significantly from like 23 to 16%. Okay?
Wow.
And my wife does it too. And you probably could speak to this, but I just, one night, I don't know what the hell went, this was probably 6 months into it. I freaking jumped off the wagon and my wife brought home donuts for the kids.
We're carb craving society. We really are.
Doc, it's like a drug. So I said, I'm going to have a little piece of a donut. As soon as it hit my mouth, I bet I had 4 donuts. The next day.
You felt like shit.
I felt like shit, but my feet and ankles swelled up. And I'm thinking, well, I figured sodium would do that, you know? But no, for some reason, after I ate the sugar, my feet and ankles, I pitting edema in my feet and ankles for about 36 hours.
I'm also a firm believer that a lot of the foods we eat, they add things that are addicting, that make you want
crave it. Well, and here's my thing. You know, as I was coming off of the sugar, when I said, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the sugar out of my diet. You know, I felt like I had the flu for probably 10 days. Almost
it's a shock to your system.
Man.
It really is.
I mean, crazy. And I kind of agree with Mitch when he was talking about this. He goes, but back in the 70s and 80s, and he was and I don't remember his verbiage in the entire podcast, but he said they demonized fat, you know, and he goes, I'm not sure that they should have demonized fat as much as they should have probably demonized sugar.
Exactly. But,
you know, because here, my cholesterol, it was my LDL, 49.
No medicine.
And I do take a statin.
Well,
but Doc, I eat 6 eggs a day, bacon, sausage, steak, red meat, avocado. Avocado's a good fat, but yeah, I eat a lot of red meat and everything.
Fish?
No.
You know, okay.
I don't eat no fish. I'll eat shrimp, you know, if I have a steak, but, you know, ribs, pork chops.
No gout? Well, it doesn't increase your uric acid level?
I'm sure it should, but I haven't had any issues with it.
Good for you.
You know, I haven't had any issues with it. Now, I did initially have issues with constipation, but then I started drinking this magnesium drink. And then I don't.
Yeah, magnesium helps.
Yeah, I don't have any issues, but no, I'd actually like for you to take a second when you got some time.
Text it to me. I'd love to.
I want you to listen to
because my diet sucks and I'm a diabetic and.
So I want to get into this portion of the segment. So you have a huge successful practice,
Yes.
huge successful practice, and you make a huge mistake that really alters your path big
Yep.
time.
Yep.
And I don't know the ins and outs of it, but
Uh,
I'd like to get into that if
Sure.
we could.
Not a
Okay.
problem.
So tell me how this whole thing goes down. Ultimately, you ended up, you didn't do any time. You didn't go to jail.
No, but I lost my medical license.
You lost your medical license for how long?
Well, when I got sentenced on January 30th of 2003, it was 2 years of supervised release from the feds, 6 months of electronic monitoring, 600.
You had to wear a bracelet. I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. They treated me like a real criminal, but you know what? I got through it. Thank you, God. 600 hours of community service, $30,000 civil fine, and a $30,000 criminal fine, of which I paid the $30,000 civil. Then when I got assessed the $30,000 criminal, I mean, it took me a while to pay it, but if they finally got paid. I sold samples to a pharmacist. Okay.
So you
Which
were
wa-
getting samples of what?
Oh, medications that were high dollar. I was a high profile writer, meaning that I had a huge practice and pharmaceutical reps, you know.
Why would the pharmaceutical rep want so you're getting samples from whom?
Pharmaceutical reps.
So pharmaceutical reps are coming in and they're giving you samples of all kinds of different meds.
Prozac, Prilosec, you know,
Which is now over the counter.
all, yeah, that Prilosec is, or omeprazole, you know, just antihypertensives. I mean, I kind of knew.
So beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, all that shit.
Right, and I knew the value of them, so they gave
But
me.
what the hell would the rep want to buy them back for you?
Rep didn't buy it back. Wasn't a rep. When I first started out in private practice, and I worked at a clinic on Independence Avenue. It was just one day a week. It was on my day off. It was Dr. Jim Dorena's clinic. And,
Okay, yeah.
And there was a pharmacy right across the street. I worked on a Tuesday. It was my day
Had to
off.
be Spalitos.
No.
Different one?
It was called Ford View Drug.
Okay.
I went over there to get a Coke one day, and this pharmacist, his name was Gary Ravis. Hey, you want to make some extra money? And I, sure. You know, stupid me. He says, well, if you bring me samples, I'll pay you 50 cents on the dollar. You know, did I need the money? No. Did I do it? Yeah. So I did a few transactions.
So wait a second. But what does I can't understand his motive for buying these from you.
Well, since he got sentenced as well, when he bought them, he would repackage them or put them in the original in a bottle, okay, and sell them to his.
This has to be a privately owned pharmacy.
Yeah, it was yeah.
So now
which was back in the early 80s.
Okay.
Okay, it was. I started working for Dr. Durana, I think it was 1986. So I was practicing in Independence at a private.
So you started doing these with Ravis well before you owned the private practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did a few transactions, and I thought, this isn't right. So I quit doing it. Okay. Then I moved to Northtown. I got hired. Well, I worked for Jerry Allstott for 6 months at Omni Family Medicine after Rick Perry let me go in 1986, 85, something like that. So I worked for Jerry Allstott for 6 months, and I worked at various urgent cares. And then I got hired by Dr. Mullins, Pileggi, and Haley. October 6th of 1986 is when I started. And he called me, he says, hey, and I did a few more transactions, and which wasn't smart.
How much are you making per transaction?
Maybe $300-400.
Are you fucking kidding me?
It was stupid.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying it that
Hey,
way.
you know
No,
what?
that's not what I'm
no,
saying.
I was stupid.
No, but
Greed is not good.
But I can't figure out how the feds got onto this.
Well, here's how the feds got onto it. Okay.
Because you're doing $300-400 per transaction. How many transactions do you think you did total over the whole course of everything?
20, maybe.
So it's what's that? $6,000?
Something like that.
6 or 7,000?
Yeah.
That's not a lot of money.
No, it was a game. Okay. It was a game.
Right.
It was stupid, and I paid the price for it. So here comes. Let's fast forward it to 2001, when Robert Courtney was diluting chemotherapeutic drugs.
Okay.
No, I did not know him. No, I did not do any transactions with him. No, there were no narcotics involved in any of my transactions. But so Robert Courtney comes, and I had done a few more transactions with Ravis. He was on state line. And I said, man, this bothers me. What happens if they catch you? Or, oh, it'll never happen. Well, lo and behold, there was a Italian pharmaceutical rep. He's deceased now, Walter Accurso. They wired him. And when they wired him, he went into Gary Ravis's pharmacy and said, because he was also doing business, I'm assuming,
With Courtney.
with Courtney and with Ravis. I mean, it's all documented in federal court.
Hold on. Walter Accurso.
He's an old, he died about a year ago.
So Walter Accurso.
An older gentleman.
Right.
Was
is doing business with Ravis and Courtney. Both.
Supposedly.
What made Walter, they had to have Walter Accurso on something for him to agree to get wired up.
Well, they didn't give him any charges.
But what was Walter Accurso doing?
I'm assuming, I'd have to look at, I think.
You're assuming Walter Accurso maybe is taking the samples he's supposed to be giving and selling it to Ravis and or Courtney.
Right, and back in the day, I think it went on quite a bit.
He had to be doing something.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I know the man's deceased, and I don't want to talk bad about the man. But, yeah, I mean, back in the day, from what I understand, pharmaceutical reps used to sell some of their samples to pharmacists, the independent pharmacists.
Right.
It was, I guess, even though it's a federal felony, it was not a big deal. It happened, probably not only in Kansas City, but all over the country.
Right.
So when Robert Courtney was found diluting chemotherapeutics for large sums of money, I don't know, and it doesn't matter to me, okay? I don't care. That was, he starts singing. So I guess one of the people involved was Walter Accurso, and I think there was a couple other pharmaceutical reps. Okay. Back in the day, I remember his name only because I just remember. But in order for him not to get charged, they wired him to go into Ravis, and he asked Ravis, what do you need? And Ravis said so and so. Feds went right in and arrested Ravis.
And then Ravis gives up you.
Ravis gave up on me, but at the same time, me being paranoid, I'm thinking back, this was 1980, November 26th of 2001 is when the feds came in. So what happened is I kept on calling Ravis's office. Of course, worried. Nobody answered the phone. I'm sure they traced it back.
So you're calling because you're scared.
I'm scared as shit.
You knew he got busted.
Yeah, it was on TV.
Oh fuck.
So I'm very scared. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going to happen to me? Well, so being paranoid like I was, and very scared, I must have called his office probably 30 times. Wrong. You shouldn't do that. So when they questioned him, he gave my name, which is okay. I mean, you know what? He got sentenced as well. When they gave my name, this was probably, he was on the news, I think, in October of 2001. It was a Monday night, I can remember clearly, November 26, 2001. It was about 7 o'clock at night. I used to have night hours. Violet Mastretta, she worked, said, Dr. Cicero, there's some federal agents out here wanting to ask you questions about your neighbor. And I said, oh, fuck. I knew what it was about. And
This was the pharmacy guy right next to you in the same building as you?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't him.
Okay.
The guy that I'd sold some samples to had a pharmacy first on Independence Avenue.
Okay.
Back 1986 when I first was introduced to him.
Got it.
Then he bought a pharmacy on State Line, or between State Line and Ward Parkway.
Got it.
He was independent, nice guy, stupid on both of our parts, more so on mine. He lost his pharmacy license for good. So when the feds came in, instead of me saying, no, I don't want to talk, there was this guilt factor in me. So they came back, there were two of them, and they started asking me questions. And instead of saying I need legal representation, I melted. I was crying. I told on myself. But you know what?
You needed to get it off your chest. It was torturing you.
Yeah. My biggest fear, and I've told people this, and I have 3 boys, my biggest fear is that God would take one of my sons because I did something stupid. Because I had a thriving practice. You know, greed is not good, okay? So I told on myself, next thing I know, got to get a criminal lawyer. And this went on from November 26th to 2001 until I went to court. And I'm glad. And it was stupid on my part for doing what I did, okay? Very stupid, okay? And I paid the price. I mean,
So did they try to link you to Courtney?
oh yeah. Matter of fact, when it came out in the paper, it said that I was linked, and I'm thinking, I didn't know him. What he did was inhumane. What I did was wrong. Okay, I'm a firm believer. I take ownership for my fuck ups.
Right.
I fucked up.
You're
Totally.
accountable.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay. I was so accountable that I told the truth on myself. You know, but I got it off my chest.
Right.
But it cost me dearly because when I got sentenced, I lost my medical license. It was only for 2 years, but they took me back and gave me another 14 months and another 300 hours of community service because I had hired an African-American doctor, and I was just I still owned the practice because nobody would take it. I couldn't sell it. And I hired her, and I was just trying to tell her how to increase revenue. Well, that's practicing medicine. I didn't know that. So they took me back, and
Well, administrators function to do that all the time. The
no,
person who was advising me in my practice on how to generate revenue was not a physical therapist at all.
but I had a felony. I was according to my second lawyer, who was a fucking crook, was a second-class citizen because I'm already on supervised release. So I should not have told her. You know, I said I was responsible for the bills still. So
You had to pay the rent.
I
The lease is on your name.
yeah, the whole building.
Well, did you own the building? Okay.
Yeah, I did. So I went over there and I said, I could see her. I can't remember. The name will come to me. But I said, in order to increase revenue, a patient with chest pain, you know, you can also get a chest X-ray, you know, make sure there's nothing going on with their chest, and you do this. Well, she felt that was not right. I'm telling her what to do, and that was not my intention. So she called the feds on me, and they took me back.
Cunt.
You know what, Frank? I
She's
got
a
through
cunt.
it. So that was another 14 months and another 300 hours of community service. And the lawyer charged me $33,000,
Fuck.
of which I only paid him $13,000. And the rest went into bankruptcy. And he knew, and every time he said, he gave me a bill, and we met at American Bandstand. That was his office. And this particular criminal lawyer operated on fear. Every time he would call me, I was scared shitless. What could happen now? Well, so I had a lot of people that really helped me financially. But this one particular, my mom and dad wrote me a check for $5,000. So he calls me, he says, I got some good and bad news. What do you want to hear first? I said, give me the bad news. He said, well, you know that check that your parents wrote for $5,000? I said, yeah, I lost it. Can they reissue another one?
That's not that bad of news.
No. So I had my parents reissue another check. Told my father was in his 80s back, to go cancel that check, and I don't think he did the proper thing. So I get a call from my mother. She was in her 80s back then and had a great mind. She said, that son of a bitch. He
Cashed both of them.
Yeah. So I called him. I said, hey, what are you doing here? There's no hanky-panky here, Doc. I thought, yes, there is. You know. He knew what he was doing.
Right.
So
your sentence was to lose the medical license for 2 years.
But then I got resentenced for another 14 months.
So they took it away for the 38 months.
Yeah.
38 months. And so now you go from, 5,000 patients in your practice
to nothing.
Overnight, pretty much.
Yeah.
So while before they convicted you, were you able to practice medicine?
I relinquished my medical license on October 24th, 2002 as part of a federal plea, okay? So I had to walk away until I got sentenced. So
did they count that as part of your sentencing? As like, say, time served? So you lost it for more than 38 months then?
Yeah, I basically lost it for probably close to, October 20th or 24th, November, December. So say 41 months. So I had nothing to do. I still had the building, still had the nut to pay. So I opened up a spa where I had bought 2 machines. I bought the machines because I still had the credit, and I was doing laser therapy. Well, I didn't have jack shit to advertise. So, and my sister Margie, who was a saint, both of my sisters are as far as that goes, she basically worked for nothing for me. I lost all of that. So, but you know what? Things happen for a reason.
And so for those 4 years, when you go from owning your own business, being the shot caller, paying all the bills, being now what do you do to make a living?
Well, I got a job, a guy by the name of Mike Feliciano, great guy, nice Hawaiian guy. I didn't have a job for probably 6 months. I mean, I was married at the time, a second time, and she was a sweet lady, and got me through another chapter of my life. But anyway, I sold oxygen. Okay, making $2,000 a month. Okay, enough to pay my child support, because my child support had to be reduced because I had no fucking income that I could make compared to what the child support was based on.
Oh, fuck. I mean, that practice was huge. There's no telling what you were able to take home.
It was a hell of a practice.
Yeah.
I worked hard. Of course, I was given the opportunity by 3 physicians, Dr. Mullins, Pileggi, and Haley, but I took it and ran with it. But anyway, so after losing my license, I sold oxygen and wasn't making much money, because if you're a rep, you got to be a good-looking broad, okay? I wasn't, seriously.
Right. No, I get it.
I was competing with the Aprias, and and they hire good-looking women. I mean,
right.
I wasn't a good-looking woman with a short dress and
right.
nice body, and so I wasn't able to really do anything. So I got dismissed from them by on the phone. She dismissed me, which, whatever. I got fired on the phone from there. And then I had to make a living. So my good friend Jim Cascone, who's been a brother, like a brother, and he's been great. He and his wife have been great to me, offered me a job. So I went out to Johnny Cascone's and managed the restaurant with another guy, semi-managed. And I worked there from probably 2006 to 2015 when I got back in, between Johnny's, and then I moved out to the North Restaurant. But then I...
that had to be
humiliating?
so humbling.
You know what, Frank? You do what you got to do. For my community service, and I laugh at this because, I got through it. Thank you, God, because God got me through everything. I was painting park benches for my community service because I had 600 hours. And I also had my electronic monitor on. So it was during the summertime and springtime. So I stayed out as much as I can doing the community service. So I was painting park benches. What's the name of the park in right next to Park College?
Oh.
But anyway, I had patients. Hi, Dr. Cicero, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just painting park benches. I'm picking up trash. And you know what? I looked and I thought, I'm alive. Okay. So I did that for my community service. I worked for the Cascone family, Jimmy, Frank, and Lou out south. Then I got a job with Necco Coffee. Anthony Simone hired me, so I wasn't a good vendor, believe me. You can ask little Anthony and Charlie. But I did what I had to do. So I worked 2 jobs trying to pay for a test. Basically, I took the test 3 times. So the first time I took the test, it was called a...
So you had to repass your boards. Fuck. Okay, so I'll just tell you this right now. I would love to know the percentage of practicing physicians that could pass a medical board.
Well, I'm not a good test taker.
Because I've been out of PT school 20 years. There's no way I can go take that test and pass it.
So I took the SPECS exam, special purpose exam. It was an 8-hour exam. There was 50 questions every 52 minutes, 8 hours straight. Okay, you got a break to pee or whatever. Got the test back. I got a 70. I wasn't allowed to take the test until I was off of paper. I was off of supervised release, and that was April 13th of 2006 when I finally was released from the feds. Okay. When you're on federal super...
What took you so long? That's 9 fucking years.
No.
Because you said you got it back in 2015?
Yeah. Well, the first test I took in 2006. I was on supervised release until 2006.
Okay.
So I took the test and got a 70. Okay.
And how much does it cost to take this exam?
The first test was $750, and thank you, Dominic and Shelly Armato, for giving me that money.
The accountant, Dominic Armato?
No, he owns...
Not Armato, that's Cusimano. Never mind.
But anyway, I took the test and I didn't pass it. So I sat again for the test. People gave me money. And the second test I got was 71.
What did you need to pass?
75. It was still 50 questions every 52 minutes. And I just couldn't get it. I took the third test. It was my son Nick's birthday. It was April 29th of 2006. I said, it's going to be a good day. I got a 71 again. I said, fuck it, I quit. Knowing that I would get my license sometime because that was my passion. So Jimmy had hired me, Jimmy and Frank and Lou. I worked there, worked for Necco Coffee. I waited until I didn't want to take the test again because for fear of failing.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, 71's a failure score. So Dr. Durena said, He was on the state board. He says, you know what? We help people all the time with impaired physicians. I said, well, I'm not impaired with alcohol or drugs. I said, mentally, I'm probably a little fucked up. I said, but okay. So he says, well, I want you to take this CPAP test. This was in Colorado. I took the test. Well, no, I didn't take the test. I found out that the test was $8,500. So I'm getting on the phone, online. I wanted to get some grant money. Well, there's no grants for stuff like that. So I finally got enough courage to take the test and did get the $9,000 from a gentleman, and I won Mr. Joseph Brancato of XL Linen came in the restaurant one time and said, son, I remember it like it was yesterday. He says, I see you running around here, and I know you're a smart kid. How much is this test going to take? What's it cost? He says, and I know you could probably borrow from your parents. And I said, you know what? I've tapped everybody out. I don't want to borrow anymore. So he said, what do you need, son? I said,
This is Frank Brancato, the lawyer's dad. Yeah. Okay.
And I said, I need $9,000. He said, I'll have the check for you tomorrow. And he says, I don't care if you ever pay me back. I had tears in my eyes. I said, I'll sign something, sir. He says, no. People helped me in the past, and I want to help you. So I finally signed up for the test. Took the test in Colorado, but it was to see how efficient I was. Well, I had been out since 2002, so I didn't...
It's 13 years.
Yeah. So I had to I had all kinds of deficiencies. So after that, for the $9,000, and by the way, I paid him back about 3 years ago, and he says, I didn't expect you to. I said, oh, sir, I had every intention to pay you. I said, you don't know what this meant to me.
Sure. So the $9,000 exam is the exam to determine where you need to put your focus.
Exactly. And there was...
that's expensive.
Well, it didn't stop there, Frank. So then they had to develop a program for me, which cost another $2,600. $25, I don't care. So I couldn't find a doctor. Everybody's corporate. My cousin Steve Jaldi, God rest his soul, was going to take me in, and then he said, I don't think it's a good idea. We're related. I said, yeah, you're right. So Dr. Blake Donaldson stepped up to the plate.
I remember that's right. Okay, I remember this.
So I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was November 1st of 2015 that I started. I had to follow him around for a month. Okay. And then I had to do studies. I had to brush up on so many different things. So the program was going to last about 27 months. At $750 a month, I had to pay CPAP, which I did. Through the grace of God, I did. So finally, after it was all said and done, I had to go back to CPAP and pay them $3,500 for the test. Flew back to Colorado after 27 months because I did all my studies and everything else, papers and CMEs and everything. I took the test, and first they said that I passed. And then they said, well, we think you need another 6 months of training. So I said, wow, really? It was all oral, okay? And
it's 45 more hundred.
So by the grace of God, I had to go. At that time, I started with Barnes.
You started with Barnes before you actually had passed the exam?
No. I was still on. I still had a restricted license. I started with Barnes July 18th of 2018. I ended with Blake Donaldson abruptly, as you well know.
Right.
I want to say it was December of 2017.
Jesus, talk about
Because he got his license emergently suspended for something he did wrong.
right. And then now I bet they tried to wrap you up in that fucking shit too.
Kinda. Okay. There's a story behind that too. I'm a pretty open book.
Because Blake Donaldson, I mean, that's something nobody wants to be associated with.
I know, and I thanked him for letting me come in to prove myself. Okay.
Because here, nobody's probably going to do that other than a guy like Blake Donaldson.
You know what? Nobody's perfect. I just, you need help when you do things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, I thanked him for helping me get in, but I proved myself. So at the time after I had started with Blake, he says, I don't know how I'm going to pay you. I didn't care. So I finally got paid $2,000 right before Sal and Lindsay got married, of which I had to pay $1,500 for their rehearsal dinner. So he paid me in June. I started in November. I lived in my son Nick and Mary's basement. I did what I had to do.
Did Blake Donaldson ever get his license back? Probably not.
No, on August 2nd of 2018, I went in front of the state board and they lifted all my restrictions and told CPEP, they said you've proven myself, and I thanked them. August 3rd of 2018, he got sentenced to 7 years of I think suspended, not suspended. He lost his license.
Indefinitely?
Just for 7 years. So that's coming up, I guess, in this next year. So the story with Blake is, and here again, I thanked him for helping me, but July of 2016, I'm 7 months into this practice. It's a Wednesday afternoon, and the Platte County Sheriff is knocking on his door. And Blake's going like this. And I said, Blake, because he had worked for me. I said,
I remember, yeah.
And I knew how to rile him up. I said, you got to tell me what the fuck's going on here. Well, there's these people at this church that they think that I had some type of misappropriations with their son. I said, oh, fuck. But I'm innocent. So I'm thinking, I'm in 7 months with this guy. I'm hardly making a living, but he started paying me because I started generating income for his practice. And I'm starting to find out, what the fuck is going on? How do I get another preceptor? I lasted with him till he got his license emergently suspended.
So apparently they did find that he was guilty.
Supposedly, yeah.
Was it an of age kid or no?
No.
So, oh man, Jesus.
And you know what? People like that need help. I'm not a perfect person,
No.
But there was an instance where there was an FDA agent that came in, okay, that she was on ADHD medicine. So Blake, in order to generate more income, which was a smart move economically on him, instead of seeing these patients every 3 months, he saw them every month, or I saw them. He wrote for the script because I didn't have,
Right.
I had my DEA, but it was his patient. So she had lung problems and she sounded like crap. And she was a really nice lady. And, I just kind of told my story. Stupid, probably. So I gave her some samples of inhalers. I'm just trying to be nice. And I had called her
Which isn't illegal.
No. So I called her one night just to ask how she was breathing because I was worried about her. I worry about my patients. So she goes to the state board and makes an allegation because Blake had showed her pictures of his two girlfriends in panties, which I thought was stupid, okay? She goes and makes an allegation to the state board that Dr. Donaldson showed me pictures of these two girls in their panties, which you don't do that to patients.
Right.
And by the way, Dr. Cicero sold me those 3 samples of albuterol. So they come in, the state board came in and questioned me. And she said, why did you choose Blake? I said, well, he took me in. I said, he was gracious enough. I didn't really have
Beggars ain't going to be choosers.
Yeah, I said, I just took my first opportunity. And I said, I don't have enough money to fight this. He said, we know you didn't do that, Dr. Cicero. You're okay. You're in the clear. Because I'd looked at him and I said, if I get in fucking trouble, it ain't going to be pretty. I didn't sell this lady samples. Oh, you're okay. And I'm thinking, why in the fuck would you, excuse my language, would you show pictures of your girlfriends and their panties? Nobody cares, for one. So anyway,
He's got girlfriends, and then this young kid. So he's got all kinds of fucking weird shit going on.
Yeah. I didn't know that at the beginning.
No. I know that if you knew that, you would not have let him be your preceptor. I know that.
And here again, I thanked him after all this was over for helping me get back in.
Maybe you can return the favor, mate. I don't know.
I'd love to. I mean, you know what? He's not a bad person, but that's a problem. I mean, okay.
Pedophilia, though. God damn.
Okay.
Doc.
And, he didn't serve any time, and God bless him, but get counseling if that's a problem.
Well, if he didn't serve any time, you have to think that maybe the relationship was inappropriate, but maybe he didn't necessarily act on anything.
I don't know. It's none of my business. I don't care.
Right. No, I agree with you. I see what you're saying.
He helped me, okay? There are a lot of people that has helped me throughout my life. Jimmy and Sarah Cascone, thank you guys for doing all you have done for me. I've got numerous friends that have been good to me. I mean...
you know what?
I'm a success story again.
Here.
I mean...
now look at you. I mean, you humble yourself. You do the community service. You go work in a restaurant. You go work at Necco Coffee.
Thank you to the Simones. I mean, you know what? I did what I had to do.
And how bad did the feds really try to stick it to you? Because they probably tried to wrap you up in all kinds of shit.
Well, when I got questioned with my lawyer, they asked me if I know so-and-so and so-and-so.
Right. They're trying to connect you to any type of organized crime figure they can.
So I said, you know what? I read the paper just like you guys do. And I said, you know what? You may see they had my licensed vehicle at my cousin Steve Jaldi's daughter's wedding. I think it was Marion and Victor's. And I said, you guys still do that shit? So I said, my parents taught me respect. And from time to time, you may see my vehicle or my license at an Italian wedding or at a funeral, because I'm not going to quit respecting the people that I grew up with by
right,
saying goodbye, or not saying, but going to wakes or going to weddings.
You need to show your face at those things.
And my lawyer said, good answer. I said, wow, they really think that I would. No, have you ever been asked to launder money for the mafia? And I said, I wanted to laugh in their face, but I said,
you watch too much TV. You want to? How fucking dumb are you guys?
And I said, wow, you guys really believe in all that? I said, you know what? I grew up in an Italian community. I went to high school with guys that I still respect and say hello to. I don't give a flying fuck what they or their parents do, because it's none of my business. But I still respect people because they respected me as a physician and came to me for care.
Right.
I don't care what they do for a living. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think, wow, really? And I could probably write a book on
well, but here, that's all they'd have to do is look at your books and see that all the income coming in is probably coming from an insurance company.
Exactly.
Right? So, I mean, how much money did you really get from the patients? I could just tell you from my practice, I got 9 yards of dick from my patients.
Let me tell you, I wrote off a lot of
fucking A, you
from
did.
The insurance. And you know what?
And here, I know your practice was bigger than mine. I wrote off, when I sold my practice, I gave the accounts receivable to a company. It was about $250,000, and I bet you I got $5,000 of it.
And you know what? We didn't get into our professions because of money. Yes, you like to be paid, but if you do a good job, the money comes.
Right.
If you're a good person, it comes back at you. And you know what? I learned a lot in the last 20-something years. One, don't be so stupid and tell on yourself. But you know what? It was a relief. My kids learned a valuable lesson.
Listen, I'll tell you something right now. If they wanted you, you know as well as I do, they were going to get you.
Right.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, if they, you know as well as I do, if they want to get you and pin you to the wall, you're screwed. They're
Oh,
doing
I know
it.
that. And you know what? I'm glad it's all over with. Thank you, God, for getting me through all this. Thank you, family and friends. I mean, you know, I've got 3 good-looking gentlemen, 2 great daughter-in-laws, 5 beautiful grandchildren. I have a lot to be thankful for.
And now you are kicking ass again.
You know what? You work at what you do. You try to do your best job. That's all you can do, man. Sorry, but you know what?
No, I'm sure it's incredibly emotional for you.
But I've had such great friends that have helped me, and it's always been there, man. And that's what it's all about. It's about family and friends. I've had so many people pray for me. My sisters have been, and brother-in-laws have been great. You know, your mother, my sister, I've had so many people praying for me, prayer groups to get back in. I didn't know it was going to take me this long, but you know what? I got through.
God has his own timing.
I know. People, and Jimmy said one day, because I said, I hate this fucking restaurant. And I didn't hate the restaurant. I was frustrated because I knew I should be doing something else. So he said, God damn it, go take your fucking test. And we both had tears in our eyes. And I'm just stubborn. It took me a long time to get back in.
Here, when you're not living in your gift, that will tug on you. You know what I mean? Kind of like a dog that keeps trying to run away and that leash keeps pulling him back violently. You know, that's kind of how that tugs on you. You know, and I think, you know, you knew what you were supposed to be doing. You knew you were good at what you were doing, what you did,
but I didn't have the confidence to pass a test.
Well, because what you were doing was going through a phase in your life where you were telling yourself you are what you did. And that's what you did and who you were is 2 very different things. And everybody goes through that, right? I mean, because everyone makes mistakes, everyone misses the mark, everyone has sin, inequities, and all these different things, you know, but sometimes the devil could come in and tell you you are what you did versus, you know, the Holy Spirit coming in and saying, no, you're just wrong. What you did was wrong. That's not who you are, though. So the messenger and the message can get very conflicting. And when you lose your confidence like that, you were just telling yourself, you know, here, this is it. This is all I can do, you know, and it takes somebody to come in and step in and kind of knock you off that path, you know, and say, come on, wake your ass up. And that's tough love sometimes.
And I've had more, friends, what are you doing? Why don't you get back in? And I remember my friend Dominic Armato said, you know, you've had more fights between your 2 ears than most people have.
Oh, yeah.
He said, why don't you let some of that shit go? Jimmy said the same thing. You know, I don't know. I probably need counseling too, to be honest.
Who don't?
I know.
Who doesn't? I mean,
you know, God's been great to me. I'm blind in my right eye, but you know.
And you're practicing medicine again.
Thank you,
know,
God.
And you've been practicing since 2019?
November 1st of 2015 is when I re-entered again with Blake.
Okay.
So going on 9 years or 10 years.
Okay. But actually getting paid for it.
Blake paid me.
Now your license is unrestricted. Now you can write anything.
My license became unrestricted on August 2nd of 2018. I had just worked for Barnes a month.
Okay.
And he hired me, and he
You
took
know
a
what?
chance on me too.
He's taken a chance on a couple people that I know, and he just seems like the type of guy that I like that he does that.
No,
I'm not going to tell another person's story, but I do know
he's a
that
great guy.
he took a chance on another guy who's also a fantastic physician.
I know who you're talking about. Yes, he is.
And he's a brilliant guy. He really is.
He's a good kid. I call him a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's a smart guy, and he took a chance on him, and
He's shining too.
he's kicking ass too now.
We've had our discussions.
Yeah, and he is kicking ass. He'd be another good guy to get on this
Oh,
podcast.
absolutely.
He would be another good guy to get on this podcast.
Absolutely. I remember him telling me, I can't wait till we both get our license back and practice. I said, thanks.
And now you guys are both practicing for the same guy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he actually always worked with this type of patient population as an internist, right? Don't they typically work with your diabetics? And,
Oh, yeah.
So he's been working with this patient. Your patient population might have been a little bit more diverse in your practice than his was.
Yeah.
His was probably more focused, would you say?
Yeah.
Now he could still treat a lot of the same stuff you did, but his was probably more focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, he would be a good guy to get on this podcast. You know what? I'm going to call him.
No, really.
It's going to be, I know it'd be hard to get him out here because I think is he still living in Joplin now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
He's a good man.
he's a great guy.
He comes from a great family.
Great family, and he drug himself. His wounds are self-inflicted, like yours are, like most of ours are.
Well, we've had plenty of discussions. Gotta let it go.
But it's good to see you guys practice again. So real quick, and this is the last question. Where do you see it going in the future, Doc? Do you see yourself entering private practice again?
No.
Don't want to do it.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield is a big payer in this city. Blue Cross and Blue Shield will not let somebody with a felony in. But Medicare, Medicaid, and all the others I'm in. So, you know what? I found a great gig.
And here's the other thing.
I love what I do.
Oh, wait, hold on. This is Mitch. I want to. Hey, Mitch.
What's up, Frank?
All right, here, listen, I'm on a podcast with Doc Cicero right now, and we were talking about you earlier. So I got the phone up next to the microphone. You were diagnosed with Crohn's disease, right?
Right.
And they tried to put you on Remicade, correct?
Not any particular immunosuppressants. They just said they wanted me on immunosuppressants, and I would need to be on them the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And what was the test? The fecal cow?
The fecal cow protectin test, it's essentially an inflammation test to measure how your body's essentially reacting to a certain stimulus, whether it's food or medication. It's an inflammation test ultimately.
And your argument was if you change your diet and the fecal cow protectin test goes down, would they then concede to you needing those immunosuppressants, correct?
Well, my rationale didn't even go that deep. My rationale went as deep as if I can prove a fecal cow protectin test can be decreased in terms of the number output from just a dietary and lifestyle change, would they be able to qualify the dietary and lifestyle change as being effective enough to decrease inflammation? That's all the conversation got to.
Right. Okay. I got
And they
you.
were like, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Well, I was talking with Doc Cicero, and we were talking about, the podcast that you were on. And he confirmed, when he was in med school, they maybe had about 5 minutes of nutrition training. So,
Right.
Anyway. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I was wondering. I'm going to have him listen to your podcast too. But then Mitch, you did change your diet and you started to eat more red meat, more fat, more, basically, would you call it ketogenic, Mitch?
Yeah. I went on a strict carnivore diet first, which was just red meat, salt, and water.
Okay.
Wow.
And I did that because what the science was showing, what a lot of clinical doctors in their own clinical practices have implemented. I mean, this is what Jay Salisbury back in the late 1800s proved when he invented Salisbury steak. He invented Salisbury steak as the least inflammatory food that his patients could eat when they had dysentery, and it's what he used to resolve their dysentery.
Okay.
And so I used it as the same sort of protocol. And these doctors were saying to utilize the carnivore to be the least inflammatory way of consuming nutrients, and then from there slowly introducing foods back in once the inflammation had resolved.
Interesting.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much, Mitch.
Always.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You need to
Wow.
listen to his podcast. It was.
Will
it
you
was really-
text it to me?
Sure. Yeah. It was really good. He's a smart guy. So you're going to stick with this then, and I think here, listen, owning your own business, which guys like you, guys like Frank Francelli, who I've tried to get on this podcast, he won't do it.
Really?
No, he goes, you need to have someone more interesting than me. He's pretty humble.
Yes, he is.
But he, of course, is another one of my mentors, my father being the number one, of course,
Exactly.
but he's definitely one of them. And I tried to get him on and he said no. And
He's a good man.
he is, but when owning your own business it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's
It's corporate medicine now. I mean,
especially in healthcare now. Right. Yes.
who
Yeah.
can survive as a 1 or 2 man or 1 or 2 person group?
No.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know,
And
as a PT, you could maybe make yourself after taxes $10,000-$12,000 a month. Which, as you know, with a family of 4 nowadays, it doesn't really go that far.
no, Kyle, the
You know.
cost of fucking potato chips is $6.09. I mean,
yeah.
I
no.
went to Red X and I said, "Really?" And I went to Price Chopper last night. I was hungry for a salad. I got a bag of salad, 2 tomatoes, and the dressing, $9.75. And I'm thinking, where in the fuck is this all going to?
Here.
It's scary.
And right now, with Michelle coaching volleyball and me coaching football, we eat out a lot. She don't have time. She comes home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'm doing the same thing. So we're having to eat out. And I'm telling you what, just to go get a burger and fries,
You're talking about $100.
$80
Yeah,
for all of us. For $80.
nothing is cheap. It's sad.
It's crazy.
You know,
And I have to wonder how difficult it is to turn a buck in that restaurant business just because of how expensive food is.
that's a tough business, man.
That's a tough business no matter what. That's an 80-hour-a-week grind.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine.
I wouldn't want to do it. No
I
way.
mean, owning your own business anymore, yeah, you call your own shots, but at what expense? You miss your family.
You miss your family, your sanity. You're there and you're not present. You don't enjoy the little things because you can't get out of your own head.
No, because you got to be there.
It's brutal.
You got
It's
to be
brutal.
there.
I do miss the autonomy.
Exactly.
I miss the autonomy of it. But no, I don't miss running my own. I don't miss that. No way. If I were to do it again, I would stick with the model that I told myself I was going to do back in 2011 when I opened up the practice. I'm having one location. I'm going to have me and a secretary. And if I go out of town, the business is closing down and everyone can reschedule when I get back in town. Maybe I hire someone to come in temporarily if I go out of
Right.
town. So I'm not having any employees. I'm not dealing with it. No way in hell am I doing it. And I may, when I'm out of my non-compete in 4 years, do that and have a little practice. Because here, honestly, Doc,
You're
Yeah.
good at you're very good at what you do.
it's my gift.
Exactly.
It is my gift. And, my cousin Adriana the other day, she had some vertigo and her neck was stiff. And I treated her and the vertigo went away, that everything went away. She goes, you really should do this. You are really good at what you do.
Absolutely.
And I said, you know what? I very well could end up doing it again. In the meantime, my real passion is training athletes, right? Which I'm also, I put myself up against anyone when it comes to doing that, as far as producing results, preventing injury, and things like that. And I that would be my number one passion for sure, because I could sit there and do that all day long and not feel like I'm working at all. And so I am doing some things, because I do that part-time right now in the evenings, just in the evenings. But I do want to eventually migrate to doing that full-time. I love, and not just athletes, right? Just, someone
Older
like
people like me that need to
someone that
lose
says,
weight.
hey, you know what? I want to make a lifestyle change. I want to, lose this much weight. I want to change this, do this. I like doing that as well. And I like being able to change kids' perspectives as well when I'm working with them, because these kids get so wrapped up. Sports are so hard nowadays. They're so competitive nowadays. They get so wrapped up in A team, B team, varsity, JV, ones, twos.
I know.
And I'm just like, here, let's just bring the best version of yourself to the table. And let's just, whatever happens, happens, because there's so many things that are out of their control, and it's just harder. It's way harder for these kids nowadays. So I like being able
Too much pressure.
Well, they monetized youth sports.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the problem. Club volleyball, club soccer, club basketball. Do you know club baseball? Do you know the only sport that you get recruited to go to college at high school is football? Every other recruiter goes to the club volleyball, club basketball.
Really?
100%.
Interesting. I didn't know
100%.
that.
Probably wrestling too. Wrestling as well, probably.
It's become big money.
It's huge. It's huge. People make living off of it, and so that puts a lot of pressure on young kids, and it's hard it's the kid who's a late bloomer. It's tough to keep their confidence level up. You know what I mean?
I know.
Because here they may get cut from the club team. It's like, okay, you're 10. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, did you have fun?
Go play.
And what is your long-term goals?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to be a pro athlete.
Well, here, what people don't understand is like, here, they'll come to me, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can make you bigger, I can make you stronger, and I can make you faster. But that doesn't mean I'm going to make you big, strong, and fast. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a difference,
I know.
right? I can make you jump higher. Does that don't mean you jump high? I can make you run faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean you run fast. God has to give you some of this stuff.
You're right.
God has to give you some of this stuff. And even the person who has God-given abilities, yes, I could still make them bigger, stronger, and faster, right? But that doesn't mean that the average kid, right, that maybe runs a 4.8 40, right? Maybe you could get him into a 4.6, right? Maybe you could get him into a 4.6, okay? But it's not a 4.4. I challenge any, athletic trainer to say, oh, you run a 4.8, I can get you to a 4.4. I'd love to see the research on that. I don't think that's ever happened. That's you have that or you don't.
Right.
So, but let's just bring the best version of you to the mat, to the court, to the field, to the whatever, right? And then
enjoy yourself while you're on the journey.
Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Just like just enjoy the process, and get yourself back to where you need to be, and here you are, and you're doing great, and I'm really glad that you came on this, because I knew parts of the story, but I didn't know all the ins and outs of it.
You know what? It's been a journey, but thank you, God. Thank you, family. Thank you, friends.
Yeah.
God doesn't give you any more than you can handle.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so true. And I knew one day I'd be practicing again. I just didn't know when.
Right.
And I'm so happy that I have the opportunity.
How much longer do you think you're going to practice? How old are you now?
I'm
65?
70.
You're 70? How much longer do you think?
You know what, Frank? I love what I do. I just don't like the dictation part, but 10, 15 more years.
Yeah.
God willing.
Yeah.
God, as long as I keep my sight. You know what? My dad lived to be 96, and he told me, your body is your temple. Here's a man that walked 6 miles a day, 6 days a week until he was 90. Ate correctly. My body's not my temple.
Right.
But you got to keep your mind going.
Yeah.
And I don't have any hobbies, of which I know my son Sal, Nick, and Michael said I need to start exercising. And it's in my game plan, but I just haven't made the time. I'm too involved in getting my job done.
Well, you're the type of person, if you're going to exercise, I'll tell you right now, you have to do it early in the morning. If you don't do it early in the morning, you'll get distracted throughout the day. You'll find shit to do, and you won't do it.
You train early in the morning?
I go early in the morning.
Do you train people early in the morning?
I will, yeah.
I seriously need to think about that, because
you have to do it early in the morning. I'll train early in the morning. I like to. We have a meeting every morning at 8:30 in the morning, a conference call. I like to be on the way to my first stop while I'm on that conference call.
Okay.
That's how. So I usually when I work out, I usually work out around 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm done by about 8:15, and then I'm on the call by 8:30 on the way. That's pretty much how I do it. But I know I could train someone. I could work out at 6, train you at 7. I could work you out at 6 and train me at 7. It doesn't matter to me.
I need to do that for mental health.
Once you get yourself disciplined to do it, then you'll desire to do it, and then you'll have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll feel like shit and you'll feel lethargic when you don't. You know, that's kind of how
Well,
I
I
am.
feel lethargic anymore. After I get home, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Because I spend all my time and energy doing the things that I'm trained to do instead of doing the things that I need to do for my own personal health and gain.
Yeah.
I have to change it.
Here, there's so many people that come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I can't work out with you. You just train athletes." I'm like, you realize for 20 years, I treated people in their 80s with joint replacements. I can train you too. You're not going to do what they do. You know, so I have a wide variety. You know, I do train a lot of athletes, but I do train the 40 and 50 something as well. You know, they just, their goals are different.
I need to eat right too.
You got to change your diet.
As a diabetic, I had a little piece of pumpkin cake and a latte on my way to. I won't eat lunch. I'll eat dinner late.
Yeah.
Not good.
No, you got to eat more regularly.
I know. I got to do a lot of things more regularly.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I'm thinking back. I remember when you were interested in medicine.
So I bounced back and forth between PT school and being a doctor, and I went back and forth, and I just, I knew this component was something that I wanted to do. The coaching football, strength and conditioning coach, training athletes. I knew this was something I was going to want to do. And then my very first continuing education class when I worked for Frank Ferrantelli was with Dr. Gary Gray and Dr. Dave Tabiro, and they're functional movement specialists. They're PTs as well. Brilliant guys. And I'm definitely disciples of them. And every single thing that I do could be traced back to those. That would be my lineage.
Well, you're good at what you do.
Yeah. Now I've logically deduced with some of the stuff and kind of came up with Frank Termini, but it would go back to those two guys. So I do love doing what I do. I do. And,
well, you have to.
we've had one non-contact injury in 5 years.
Wow.
So, that's something I pride myself in, is that number. We just had it this past July. It was a defensive end. But contact injuries, I mean, you can decrease the probability of them, but at the end of the day, it's tough to prevent those. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But non-contact injuries is something you could 100% control, in my opinion. Assuming the weather's good, assuming you're not dealing with snow and ice and that type of shit on the field, you can prevent those. And I think we've done a good job up there doing that. So
you guys have done an excellent job.
So
you're playing Cameron tonight.
Yep.
Next week is at home, right?
Next week will be at home against Maryville.
I'll be that one.
So
I don't think I'm going to go to Cameron, but
thank you very much for being on this.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.